A regular man saves a woman on the subway, but when she reveals her true identity, his life is turned completely upside down. It was the moment an ordinary man with nothing but his bare hands faced danger to protect a stranger, not knowing she was hiding from a powerful family that could crush him with a single phone call. But sometimes courage doesn't come from strength, it comes from having nothing left to lose. Follow my story to the end. Hit like and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now, let's begin. The subway car smelled like wet metal and old coffee. Ryan Cole pressed his back against the scratched plastic seat, eyes half closed, letting the rhythm of the tracks underneath lull him into something close to rest. His shift at the warehouse had run 2 hours over, and his second job, stocking shelves at the 24-hour mart, started in 6 hours. The math didn't work, it never did. But Mia needed new shoes and the rent was due, and sleep was just another luxury he'd given up 3 years ago when his ex-wife walked out. He rubbed his face with both hands, feeling the stubble that had become permanent, the kind of tired that lived in his bones now. 32 years old, and he felt 50. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered in that sick way that made everything look worse than it was. There were maybe 6 other people in the car. A guy in a business suit sleeping against the window. An older woman with grocery bags stacked around her feet. A couple of kids with headphones in, nodding to music Ryan couldn't hear. And then there was the woman who got on at Hudson Street. Ryan noticed her immediately, though he tried not to. She was young, mid-20s maybe, with dark hair pulled back in a messy knot and a coat that looked expensive even to his untrained eye. But it was the way she moved that caught his attention. Quick, nervous glances over her shoulder, hands gripping the strap of her bag like someone might try to take it. She sat down 3 seats away from him, tucked herself into the corner, and kept her eyes on the door. Ryan looked away. Not his business. He had enough problems. The train lurched forward, the lights dimming for a second as they picked up speed. Ryan closed his eyes again, trying to find that half-sleep state where his brain would shut up for a few minutes. But then he heard it. Footsteps. Heavy ones. He opened his eyes. 2 men had moved from the far end of the car, and they weren't being subtle about it. One was tall, maybe 6'2", with a shaved head and a leather jacket that had seen better days. The other was shorter, stockier, with a face that looked like it had taken a few too many hits. They were walking straight toward the woman. She saw them coming. Her whole body went rigid. "Hey," the tall one said, his voice carrying over the rattle of the train. "Long time no see." The woman didn't respond. She turned her face toward the window, like maybe if she ignored them, they'd disappear. They didn't. The shorter guy sat down right next to her, close enough that she had to shift away. The tall one stood in front of her, blocking any path to the door. "Come on, Elena," the tall one said. "Don't be like that. We just want to talk." "I have nothing to say to you," she said, and her voice was steady, but Ryan could hear the fear underneath it. "That's not very friendly." The shorter guy leaned in closer. "Your family's worried about you. They sent us to bring you home." "I'm not going anywhere with you." "See? That's where you're wrong." The tall one reached out, grabbed her arm, and Ryan stood up. He didn't think about it, didn't weigh the odds or consider what would happen next. He just moved, crossing the space between them in 3 steps, and put his hand on the tall guy's shoulder. "Let her go." The tall one turned, looked Ryan up and down with the kind of dismissive glance that said he'd already decided Ryan wasn't a threat. "This doesn't concern you, buddy." "I'm making it my concern." The shorter guy stood up now too, squaring his shoulders. "You should sit back down before you get hurt." Ryan's heart was hammering, adrenaline flooding his system in a way it hadn't in years. He wasn't a fighter. He'd been in maybe 2 actual fights in his life, both in high school, and he'd lost one of them badly. But there was something about the way the woman, Elena, was looking at him, eyes wide and desperate, that made him hold his ground. "I said let her go." The tall one's grip tightened on Elena's arm instead. "Or what?" Ryan hit him. It wasn't a good punch. His form was terrible, his weight was all wrong, and he telegraphed it so badly that the guy almost had time to dodge. But it connected, right on the guy's jaw, and the surprise of it made him let go of Elena and stumble back a step. For about half a second, Ryan thought he might actually win this. Then the shorter guy grabbed him from behind, arms locking around his chest, and the tall one came back with a punch that caught Ryan square in the stomach. The air went out of him in a rush. He tried to break free, got an elbow back into the shorter guy's ribs, heard a grunt of pain. The tall one swung again, this time aiming for Ryan's face, but Ryan ducked, and the fist glanced off his temple instead of breaking his nose. The train was slowing down. They were coming into a station. Elena was on her feet now, bag clutched to her chest. "Stop it! Leave him alone!" The doors opened. The shorter guy let go of Ryan and both men backed toward the door, hands up in mock surrender. The tall one pointed at Elena. "This isn't over. You know that, right?" "Get out," Ryan said, though it came out more like a gasp. They got out. The doors closed. The train started moving again. Ryan bent over, hands on his knees, trying to remember how to breathe normally. His stomach felt like someone had driven a truck into it, and his temple was throbbing where he'd been hit. He was pretty sure he was going to have a spectacular bruise by morning. "Are you insane?" Elena said. Ryan looked up at her. "You're welcome." "I didn't ask you to do that." "Yeah, well, I did it anyway." She stared at him for a long moment, and he couldn't quite read her expression. Anger, maybe, or fear, or something else entirely. Then she sat down, hard, like her legs had stopped working, and put her face in her hands. The other passengers in the car were all very carefully looking anywhere else. The unspoken rule of the subway: mind your business, see nothing, remember less. Ryan lowered himself back into his seat, wincing at the way his ribs protested. He was definitely going to feel this tomorrow. Hell, he was feeling it now. "Thank you," Elena said quietly, not looking at him. "That was stupid, but thank you." "You're welcome," Ryan said again. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." She wasn't fine. He could see her hands shaking. "Those guys," Ryan said. "They're not going to let this go, are they?" Elena shook her head. "No, they won't." "You want to tell me what that was about?" "Not really." "Fair enough." Ryan closed his eyes again, leaning his head back against the seat. This was exactly the kind of thing he didn't need in his life right now. Drama. Danger. Men in leather jackets who knew how to throw a punch. He had a daughter to think about, bills to pay, a life that was already hanging by a thread. But when he opened his eyes and looked at Elena again, saw the way she was curled into herself, arms wrapped tight around her middle, he knew he couldn't just walk away. The train pulled into the next station. Ryan stopped. He stood up, every muscle in his body complaining. Elena looked up at him. "This is me," Ryan said. "You should probably get off too. Find somewhere safe." "I don't have anywhere safe." "What about the police?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The police can't help me." Ryan hesitated. This was the moment. This was where he could walk away, go home, pretend this never happened. He had enough on his plate. He didn't need to take on someone else's problems. "Come on," he said instead, and held out his hand. Elena looked at his hand like it might bite her. "Where?" "I don't know yet, but not here." She took his hand. They got off the train together and Ryan led her up the stairs and out onto the street. It was past midnight, cold enough that he could see his breath, and the sidewalks were mostly empty except for a few stragglers heading home from late shifts or early mornings. Ryan's apartment was 6 blocks away, a 4th-floor walk-up in a building that should have been condemned 20 years ago. "I'm Ryan," he said as they walked. "Elena." "Nice to meet you. Wish it was under better circumstances." "Me too." They walked in silence for a while, and Ryan tried to figure out what the hell he was doing. He was bringing a stranger to his apartment, a stranger who had dangerous men chasing her, a stranger who clearly came from money based on that coat and the way she held herself, like she wasn't used to walking these streets. "I have a daughter," Ryan said abruptly. "She's 6. She's at my neighbor's place right now, but I pick her up in the morning." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to understand that I can't get involved in anything that's going to put her at risk. So if those guys are going to come looking for you, you need to tell me now." Elena stopped walking. Ryan stopped too, turned to face her. "I won't bring trouble to your home," she said. "I'll find somewhere else to go." "I didn't say you had to leave. I just need to know what I'm dealing with." She studied his face like she was trying to decide if she could trust him. Finally, she said, "My family is complicated. I left because I needed to get away from them. Those men work for my father. He wants me to come back. And you don't want to go back. I'd rather die than go back. The way she said it, flat and certain, made Ryan's chest tighten. Okay, he said. Then we'll figure something out. Why are you helping me? Ryan shrugged. Because you need help. You don't know me. No, but I know what it's like to feel trapped. They started walking again. Ryan's building came into view, its brick facade crumbling in places, windows dark except for a few lit apartments scattered across the upper floors. He led Elena inside, past the broken mailboxes and up the narrow stairwell that smelled like garbage and something unidentifiable. His apartment was on the 4th floor at the end of the hall. Ryan unlocked the door and pushed it open, hitting the light switch just inside. It wasn't much. One bedroom for Mia, a pull-out couch in the living room for him, a kitchen the size of a closet. The furniture was all second-hand, the walls needed paint, and there was a persistent leak in the bathroom that Ryan kept meaning to fix but never had time for. But it was clean, and it was warm, and it was theirs. Sorry about the mess, Ryan said, though it wasn't actually messy. He couldn't afford to let things get messy. Elena walked in slowly, taking it all in. It's nice. It's small. It feels like a home. Ryan didn't know what to say to that, so he went into the kitchen and filled a glass with water, brought it back to her. You should sit down. You look exhausted. Elena took the water and sat on the edge of the couch, sipping it slowly. Ryan lowered himself into the armchair across from her, feeling every bruise from the fight settling in. You're hurt, Elena said. I've had worse. When? I used to play football in high school, broke my collarbone twice. And you still decided to fight 2 grown men on a subway? Ryan smiled despite himself. Yeah, well, I never said I was smart. Elena almost smiled back. Almost. Why did you do it? I already told you, you needed help. That's not a reason. People need help all the time. Most people look the other way. Ryan leaned back, closing his eyes for a second. My mom died when I was 15. Cancer. It was bad at the end. She was in a lot of pain, couldn't take care of herself. And I watched people walk away from her. Friends, family, people who said they loved her. They just left. Because it was hard, and it was ugly, and they didn't want to deal with it. He opened his eyes, looked at Elena. So I made myself a promise. I wouldn't be that person. I wouldn't walk away when someone needed help, even if it was hard, even if it cost me something. Elena set the water glass down on the coffee table, her hands still shaking slightly. You don't know what you're getting into. Then tell me. She hesitated, and Ryan could see the war happening behind her eyes, the instinct to protect herself, to keep her secrets close, fighting against the need to trust someone. My name is Elena Vaughn, she said finally. My father is Richard Vaughn. The name meant nothing to Ryan. He shook his head. He's a billionaire. Real estate, mostly, but he has his hands in everything. Hotels, casinos, development projects all over the country. Elena's voice was flat, like she was reciting facts from a textbook. He's also a controlling, manipulative bastard who's been planning my life since the day I was born. And you ran away. I tried to. I've tried 3 times now. He always finds me. Those men on the train? His security team. Or 2 of them, anyway. He has dozens, maybe hundreds. I don't know. Elena pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. He wants me to marry someone, a business associate's son. It would merge 2 companies, create some kind of empire. I'm just a piece in his game. Ryan felt anger rising in his chest, hot and sharp. You're his daughter. I'm an asset. The way she said it, so matter-of-fact, like it was just the truth of the world, made Ryan want to hit something. You don't have to go back. He'll keep looking for me. Let him look. You're an adult. He can't force you to do anything. Elena laughed, that same humorless sound from the train. You have no idea what kind of power he has, what he's capable of. I don't care. You should. Well, I don't. Ryan stood up, paced to the window and back. Look, I get it. Your life is complicated. Your father is powerful and dangerous, and probably has connections I can't even imagine. But you're here now, and you're safe, and we'll figure out the next step in the morning. I can't stay here. Why not? Because if he finds me here, he'll destroy you. He'll destroy your life, take your daughter, make sure you never work again. He's done it before. Ryan stopped pacing. To who? To anyone who's tried to help me. Elena's voice cracked on the last word. The last time I ran, I stayed with a friend from college. My father found out. He got her fired from her job, sued her for defamation, completely fabricated charges, and made sure she couldn't get another job in her field. She had to move back home with her parents. She won't even talk to me now. The room went quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the distant sound of traffic outside. I'm sorry, Elena said. I shouldn't have come here. I shouldn't have let you help me. Too late now. It's not. I can leave. You can forget this ever happened. Ryan sat back down in the armchair, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Here's the thing, Elena. My life is already pretty close to rock bottom. I work 70 hours a week to barely make rent. My ex-wife left me with a 6-year-old and no support. I'm one missed paycheck away from losing everything. So your father's threats? They don't scare me as much as you think they should. That's insane. Maybe. But you're staying here tonight. We'll figure out tomorrow when it comes. Elena opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. She looked at him for a long moment, and something in her expression shifted. Softened, maybe, or just gave up the fight. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you. You can have the bedroom. I'll sleep out here. That's your daughter's room. I can't. She's not here tonight, and the couch is fine. I sleep on it most nights anyway. Elena looked like she wanted to argue more, but she was too tired. Ryan could see it in the way her shoulders sagged, the dark circles under her eyes. She nodded and stood up, wavering slightly on her feet. Ryan showed her to Mia's room, which was barely big enough for the twin bed and small dresser shoved against the wall. There were drawings taped to the walls, stick figures and rainbows and houses with smoke coming out of chimneys. A stuffed elephant sat on the pillow. I'll get you some clean clothes, Ryan said. Might be a little big, but they'll work for sleeping. He came back with a t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants, set them on the bed. Elena picked up the stuffed elephant, ran her fingers over its worn fur. She loves that thing, Ryan said. I got it for her when she was 2. She won't go anywhere without it. She's lucky to have you. Ryan didn't know what to say to that. He backed toward the door. Bathroom's down the hall if you need it. There's a lock on the door here if it makes you feel safer. Ryan? He stopped, turned back. Those men, Elena said. The ones on the train. If they find you, if they come here, they won't. But if they do, then I'll deal with it. He closed the door before she could argue, went back to the living room and pulled out the couch bed. The springs creaked in protest. He lay down without bothering to change, staring at the ceiling and trying to process what the hell had just happened. 6 hours ago, he'd been stacking boxes at the warehouse, thinking about whether he could afford to take Mia to the movies this weekend. Now he had a billionaire's runaway daughter sleeping in his apartment, and 2 guys who knew how to throw a punch probably looking for both of them. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from his neighbor, Mrs. Chen. Mia's asleep. See you at 7? Ryan texted back. See you then. Thanks again. He set the phone down and closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. His mind was racing, running through scenarios trying to figure out what he was supposed to do next. He couldn't call the police. Elena had said they couldn't help, and based on what she'd told him about her father, Ryan believed it. Men like that had the kind of money that made problems disappear or made people disappear. But he couldn't just keep Elena hidden in his apartment forever either. Eventually, her father would find her. Men like that always did. So what was the plan? What was the next move? Ryan didn't have an answer. He just knew that when he'd seen Elena on that train, seen those men cornering her, something in him had snapped into place. Like a part of him that had been dormant for years had suddenly woken up and decided this was the fight worth fighting. He thought about his mom, about watching her waste away in that hospital bed, while people who claimed to love her found reasons to stay away. He thought about the promise he'd made himself at her funeral, standing there in a suit that didn't fit right while the rain came down. He wouldn't be that person. He wouldn't walk away, even if it cost him everything. Ryan must have fallen asleep eventually, because when he opened his eyes again, pale morning light was filtering through the thin curtains, and his whole body ached like he'd been hit by a car. He sat up slowly, cataloging the damage. Bruised ribs, definitely. A knot on his temple that throbbed when he touched it. His right hand was swollen from the punch he'd thrown. The apartment was quiet. He checked his phone, 6:30 a.m., half an hour before he needed to pick up Mia. Ryan stood up, every movement a study in pain, and went to check on Elena. He knocked softly on Mia's bedroom door. "Elena, you awake?" No answer. He knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. A spike of fear went through him. He opened the door. The room was empty. The bed was made, his clothes folded neatly on top of the dresser. The stuffed elephant was back on the pillow. And on the nightstand, there was a note written on the back of one of Mia's drawings. Ryan picked it up, read the careful handwriting. "I'm sorry. I can't put you and your daughter in danger. Thank you for your kindness. Please forget about me." Damn it," Ryan said to the empty room. He crumpled the note in his fist, then smoothed it out again, read it once more like maybe the words would change. They didn't. Elena was gone. And despite everything, despite the danger, despite the bruises, despite every logical reason he should be relieved, all Ryan felt was a hollow ache in his chest that had nothing to do with the beating he'd taken. He went to pick up Mia. Mrs. Chen lived 2 doors down in an apartment that was somehow even smaller than Ryan's but filled with plants and the smell of jasmine tea. She opened the door before he could knock, already holding Mia's backpack. "Late night?" she asked, her eyes going to the bruise on his temple. "Something like that." Mia came running out, still in her pajamas, and threw herself at Ryan's legs. "Daddy!" He scooped her up despite the protest from his ribs, buried his face in her hair. She smelled like Mrs. Chen's lavender soap and kid shampoo, and for a second everything else fell away. "Hey, Bug," he said. "Have a good night?" "We watched a movie, and Mrs. Chen made dumplings, and I helped." "That's great. Did you say thank you?" Mia twisted in his arms to beam at Mrs. Chen. "Thank you." "You're very welcome, little one." Mrs. Chen looked at Ryan again, concern creasing her face. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm fine, just clumsy." She didn't believe him, but she didn't push. That was one thing Ryan appreciated about Mrs. Chen. She knew when to ask questions and when to mind her own business. Back in the apartment, Ryan got Mia dressed and fed, going through the morning routine on autopilot. Cereal with sliced bananas, brushing teeth, finding her favorite pink sneakers that she'd somehow hidden under the couch. "Daddy, you're moving funny," Mia said as Ryan tied her shoes. "Just sore. Did too much lifting at work." "You should take medicine." "I will." "Thanks, Doc." She giggled, and the sound was so pure, so completely untouched by everything wrong in the world, that Ryan had to close his eyes for a second. He dropped Mia off at school, watched her run into the building with her backpack bouncing, then headed to his shift at the warehouse. His supervisor took one look at his face and sent him to the office to fill out an incident report. "What happened?" Jerry asked. He was a good guy, mid-50s, with a beer gut and a tendency to fall asleep during safety meetings. "Got mugged on the train last night." "Jesus, you okay?" "Yeah, they didn't get anything." "You file a police report?" "Not yet." Jerry handed him the forms. "Do it. Company insurance won't cover anything without a police report." Ryan nodded, knowing he wouldn't file anything. The last thing he needed was police asking questions, looking into his life, maybe finding some connection to Elena. Elena, who was out there somewhere, alone. He worked his shift in a haze, moving boxes from trucks to shelves, his body complaining with every lift. Around noon, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Ryan almost didn't answer, but something made him step outside into the loading bay and swipe to accept. "Hello?" "Ryan Cole." A man's voice, smooth, educated, the kind of voice that belonged to someone used to being obeyed. "Who's this?" "My name is Richard Vaughn. I believe you met my daughter last night." Ryan's blood went cold. "I don't know what you're talking about. Please don't insult my intelligence. My security team saw you leave the subway station with Elena. I know where you live. I know where you work. I know where your daughter goes to school." Every word was delivered calmly, almost pleasantly, but the threat underneath was crystal clear. "What do you want?" Ryan asked. "I want to know where my daughter is." "I don't know. She left." "When?" "This morning. I woke up and she was gone." There was a pause. Ryan could hear the sound of traffic on the other end of the line, voices in the background. "Did she say where she was going?" Vaughn asked. No, she left a note saying she couldn't stay. Another pause, longer this time. Mr. Cole, I'm going to be very clear with you. My daughter is not well. She has issues, issues that require medical attention. When she's off her medication, she makes poor decisions, dangerous decisions. She seemed fine to me. Of course she did. That's part of the illness. She's very good at hiding it. Vaughn's voice took on a note of paternal concern that sounded completely fake to Ryan's ears. I'm worried about her. I just want to bring her home where she can get the help she needs. If that's true, why did you send 2 thugs to grab her on the subway? Those men are trained security professionals. They were instructed to bring her home safely. By grabbing her and threatening her? Mr. Cole. The pleasant tone dropped away, replaced by something harder. I'm trying to be civil here, but let me be very clear. You interfered in a private family matter. You assaulted 2 of my employees. Under normal circumstances, I would have you arrested and ensure you spent the next 5 to 10 years in prison. Ryan's hand tightened on the phone. Then why haven't you? Because I believe you were trying to help. You saw what you thought was a woman in danger, and you acted. I can respect that, even if it was misguided. So I'm giving you a chance to walk away from this with your life intact. And if I don't, then I will destroy you. I will take your job, your apartment, your daughter. I will make sure you have nothing and no one. Do you understand? Ryan understood. He understood perfectly. Stay away from my family, Mr. Cole. If Elena contacts you, you call me immediately. Vaughn rattled off a phone number. If I find out you're helping her, protecting her, hiding her from me, well, let's just say you don't want to find out what happens then. The line went dead. Ryan stood there in the loading bay, phone pressed to his ear, trying to control his breathing. His hands were shaking, not from fear, though there was plenty of that, but from rage. The man had just threatened his daughter. He went back inside, finished his shift mechanically, his mind spinning. When it was over, he headed to his second job at the mart, stocked shelves for 6 hours while his body screamed in protest, then finally went home. Mia was at Mrs. Chen's again. Ryan picked her up, took her home, made her dinner, mac and cheese from a box, her favorite. He helped her with her homework, gave her a bath, read her 2 stories, and tucked her into bed with the stuffed elephant. Love you, Daddy, she said, already half asleep. Love you too, Bug. He closed her door and went back to the living room, sank onto the couch, and let his head fall into his hands. This was insane that he should walk away. Forget about Elena, forget about everything, go back to his quiet, exhausting life, and count himself lucky that Vaughn was giving him the chance. But he couldn't stop thinking about the look in Elena's eyes on the train, the fear, the desperation. He couldn't stop thinking about her note. Please forget about me. Like she was used to being forgotten, like she expected it. His phone buzzed. Ryan picked it up, heart jumping, hoping stupidly that it might be Elena somehow, but it was just an email notification. He opened it anyway, scrolling through the usual junk. And then he saw it. An email from an address he didn't recognize. No subject line. He opened it. There's a coffee shop on the corner of Madison and 5th. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Come alone. Ryan read it 3 times, then set the phone down. He should delete it, pretend he never saw it, protect himself and Mia from whatever was coming. But he knew he wouldn't. Because 3 years ago, when his ex-wife had packed her bags and walked out, she told him he was too soft, too willing to help everyone else while his own life fell apart, too stupid to know when to quit. Maybe she'd been right. But if being soft meant showing up for someone who needed help, if being stupid meant keeping a promise he'd made to himself at 15 years old, then fine. He'd be soft. He'd be stupid. He'd show up. The coffee shop was the kind of place that tried too hard to be trendy. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling, and a chalkboard menu written in unnecessarily elaborate script. Ryan arrived 15 minutes early, ordered a black coffee he didn't want, and found a table in the back corner where he could see the door. His shift at the warehouse had ended at noon. He'd told Jerry he had a doctor's appointment, which technically wasn't a lie if you counted meeting a runaway billionaire's daughter as a form of self-destructive therapy. The bruise on his temple had turned a spectacular purple-yellow, and his ribs still hurt when he breathed too deep, but at least the swelling in his hand had gone down. He checked his phone. 1:47 p.m. The door opened and a group of college students came in, laughing about something, drowning out the indie music playing overhead. Then a businessman in an expensive suit. Then an older couple holding hands. No Elena. Ryan sipped his coffee and tried not to look like someone waiting for trouble to walk through the door. The college students settled at a table near the window. The businessman ordered something complicated and left. The older couple sat down with matching lattes and a single croissant they split between them. 2:03 p.m. Ryan was starting to think she wasn't coming when the door opened again, and there she was. She looked different in daylight. Her dark hair was down now, falling past her shoulders, and she was wearing jeans and a plain black sweater instead of the expensive coat. But it was her eyes that caught him, the same mix of fear and determination he'd seen on the train. Elena spotted him and walked over, sliding into the chair across from him without a word. "You came," she said. "You asked me to." "I wasn't sure you would, after what I said in the note." "About forgetting you?" "Yeah, that's not really how my brain works." A ghost of a smile crossed her face, then disappeared. "You shouldn't be here." "Probably not, but I'm here anyway, so let's skip the part where you try to protect me and get to the part where you tell me what's going on." Elena glanced around the coffee shop, checking the exits, the other customers, the street outside the window. Whatever she was looking for, she didn't seem to find it. "My father called you, didn't he?" Ryan nodded. "Yesterday, told me to stay away from you, threatened my job, my home, my daughter. And you're still here." "Like I said, not really how my brain works." Elena leaned back in her chair, studying him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "I'm going with stupid. It's easier to live with." This time the smile stuck around a little longer. "I'm sorry I left without saying anything. I panicked." "Where have you been staying?" "A motel on the east side, the kind of place that doesn't ask questions if you pay cash." She wrapped her hands around an imaginary cup, a nervous gesture. "I've been trying to figure out my next move. I have some money saved, enough to get me out of the state maybe, but my father has people everywhere. He'll find me eventually. He always does." "So what's the plan?" "I don't have one." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. "That's why I contacted you. I know I shouldn't have. I know I'm putting you in danger, but I didn't know who else to turn to." Ryan leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Tell me about your father. Not the public version, the real version." Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her words came slowly, like she was picking through a minefield. "Richard Vaughn built his empire from nothing. That's what all the business magazines say. Self-made billionaire, ruthless negotiator, brilliant strategist." She looked down at the table. "What they don't say is that he crushed anyone who got in his way. Bought companies just to tear them apart. Destroyed careers because someone disagreed with him in a meeting. He's not just controlling, he's pathological about it. And you're his only daughter. His only child. My mother died when I was 8. Cancer. After that, it was just me and him and an army of nannies and tutors. He controlled everything. What I wore, what I studied, who I could talk to. When I turned 18, I thought I'd finally get some freedom. Go to college, make my own choices. But he didn't let you." "Oh, he let me go to college. Yale, his alma mater. But he chose my major, business administration. He chose my roommate, the daughter of one of his business partners. He had people watching me constantly. If I tried to date someone he didn't approve of, they'd mysteriously get harassed until they broke up with me. If I made a friend he didn't like, he'd find some way to drive them away." Ryan felt that familiar anger building in his chest again. "That's insane. That's just how he operates. Everything is about control. Everything is a chess piece to be moved around." Elena's hands tightened on the table. 2 years ago, he started talking about this merger. His company and the Cortland Group, another real estate empire. It would make them the largest private developer in the country, but Marcus Cortland wouldn't agree to it unless the families were united. "Let me guess, you and Marcus's son." Marcus's son, Cameron, who I'd met exactly twice at charity functions, who spent both conversations talking about his golf handicap and his sports car collection. She laughed bitterly. "My father didn't even pretend it was my choice. He just announced the engagement at a board meeting like it was another line item on the agenda." "What did you do?" "I said no, refused to go along with it. My father didn't take it well." Elena touched her wrist absently, and Ryan noticed a faint scar there he hadn't seen before. He reminded me that everything I had was his. My apartment, my car, my bank accounts. He could take it all away with a phone call. So you ran. So I ran. The first time I made it as far as Chicago, stayed with a friend from college. My father's people found me in 3 days. They dragged me back, and my father made sure my friend lost everything. The second time, I tried to disappear completely. Changed my name, dyed my hair, worked cash jobs. Made it almost 2 months before they tracked me down. And this time? This time I was more careful. I've been planning for 6 months, slowly moving money into accounts he couldn't access, finding places to hide, learning how to stay off the grid. She met his eyes. But I made a mistake. I stayed too long in one place, and his people spotted me. That's when you found me on the train. The college students at the window burst into laughter at something on one of their phones. The sound felt jarring, too bright for the conversation Ryan and Elena were having. Why not go to the police? Ryan asked. Or the media? Expose what he's doing? You think I haven't tried? My father has lawyers on retainer at 5 different firms. He has connections with half the police department. And the media? Elena shook her head. He owns a media company. He plays golf with the editor of the Times. Who's going to believe the troubled daughter over the beloved philanthropist? The troubled daughter? That's the story he tells. That I'm mentally unstable, that I've had breakdowns, that I need medication, that I'm a danger to myself. He has doctors who'll swear to it. Medical records he's had fabricated. If I go public, he'll have me committed before I can finish a sentence. Ryan sat back trying to process it all. The scope of what she was describing was beyond anything he'd dealt with in his own life. His problems were simple. Not enough money, not enough time, an ex-wife who didn't care. But this was different. This was someone trapped in a cage made of money and power, and every time she tried to break free, the bars just got stronger. What about the guy you're supposed to marry? Ryan asked. Cameron. Does he know you don't want this? He knows. He doesn't care. To him, I'm part of a business deal. The marriage doesn't have to be real. We can live separate lives, keep up appearances at public events. He actually said that to me once. It doesn't have to mean anything. That's disgusting. That's wealth. Elena's voice was flat. Everything is transactional. Love, family, loyalty. It's all just currency to be spent. Ryan thought about Mia, about the way she threw herself into his arms every morning, the absolute trust in her eyes. The idea of treating a child as a business asset made him physically ill. So what do you want to do? He asked. What's the end game here? I want to disappear completely, change my identity, move somewhere my father will never find me, start over. Elena's eyes were bright, almost feverish. I have enough money to do it. I know people who can create new documents, help me vanish. But I need time to make the arrangements, time to get far enough away that my father's reach doesn't extend. How much time? A week. Maybe 2. And you need somewhere to hide while you set it up. Elena hesitated. I shouldn't ask you. I know I shouldn't. But I don't have anyone else. Everyone I've ever trusted, my father has gotten to them. You're the only person who's helped me without wanting something in return. Ryan knew what she was asking before she said it, and he knew what his answer should be. He should tell her no, tell her to find someone else, protect himself and Mia from whatever storm was coming. But when he opened his mouth, different words came out. You can stay with me, just until you get things arranged. Ryan, I have conditions. You stay out of sight. No going out unless absolutely necessary. No contact with anyone from your old life. And the second my daughter's in danger, you leave. No arguments. Elena's eyes were suddenly wet. I can't ask you to do this. You're not asking. I'm offering. Why? You barely know me. This could cost you everything. Ryan thought about the promise he'd made at his mother's funeral. He thought about all the people who'd walked away when things got hard. He thought about the kind of man he wanted to be when Mia looked at him. Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply. They left the coffee shop separately. Elena went first, walking 3 blocks before ducking into a convenience store and then out the back exit, a route she'd clearly planned in advance. Ryan waited 10 minutes, finished his cold coffee, and then headed home via a deliberately roundabout path that added 20 minutes to his trip. He kept checking over his shoulder, looking for anyone following him, but the streets were just full of normal people going about their normal lives. Still, his heart didn't stop pounding until he was back in his building, door locked behind him. Elena arrived an hour later, knocking 3 times soft and twice hard like they'd agreed. Ryan let her in and watched as she immediately went to the window, peering through the blinds at the street below. "See anything?" he asked. "No, but that doesn't mean they're not out there." She was probably right. If Richard Vaughn had the kind of resources Elena described, he'd have people watching Ryan's building, tracking his movements, waiting for Elena to surface. "We need to be smart about this," Ryan said. "If anyone asks, you're my cousin from out of state. You're staying with me while you look for work in the city." That's a terrible cover story. "You have a better one?" Elena considered. "Your girlfriend, it's more believable, and it explains why I'd be staying here." "I don't have a girlfriend." "Your new girlfriend, then. Someone you just started seeing." Ryan felt heat rise in his face. "I don't think it's practical. Neighbors are less likely to ask questions about someone you're dating than a mysterious cousin who appeared out of nowhere." Elena turned from the window. "Unless it makes you uncomfortable." "No, it's fine. Makes sense." Ryan cleared his throat. "So, girlfriend. Great." The corner of Elena's mouth twitched, and he realized she was enjoying his discomfort. "We should probably get our story straight. How we met, how long we've been seeing each other." "Right, we met at the grocery store 2 weeks ago. You were reaching for the same cereal box as me." "Cereal?" "Mia's favorite, the one with the cartoon tiger." "That's actually kind of cute." Elena sat down on the couch. "Okay, we met at the grocery store, started talking, exchanged numbers. You asked me out for coffee. We've been on 3 dates. 3 seems like a lot for 2 weeks. 3 is normal for people who like each other." "How would you know? You've been running from an arranged marriage." The words came out sharper than Ryan intended. Elena's expression shuddered, and he immediately felt like an ass. "Sorry," he said. I didn't mean..." "No, you're right. I don't know what normal dating looks like. I've never really had the chance." She pulled her knees up to her chest, that same defensive posture from the train. "The few times I tried to date in college, my father sabotaged it. And after that, I was too afraid to let anyone close." Ryan sat down in the armchair across from her. "I'm sorry. That was a shitty thing to say." "It was honest. I'd rather have honest than polite." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, someone was playing music too loud, bass thumping through the walls. Ryan's neighbor, probably. The guy was always blasting something. "Can I ask you something?" Elena said. "Sure." "Why do you work 2 jobs? I know rent in the city is expensive, but my ex-wife left us with about $15,000 in credit card debt. Medical bills, mostly, from when Mia was born. There were complications. She was in the NICU for 3 weeks. Ryan rubbed his face. Insurance covered some of it, but not all. We were supposed to pay it off together, but then Karen decided being a mother wasn't what she wanted and took off, so it's all on me." "That's awful." "It is what it is. I'll have it paid off in another year, maybe 2. Then I can quit the night job, actually see my kid more than an hour a day." "You're a good father." "I'm a tired father. Not sure that's the same thing." Elena uncurled slightly. "Mia's lucky to have you. You know that, right? Some kids have parents who are there physically, but checked out emotionally. You're working yourself to death to give her a good life." "Yeah, well, she's my kid. That's the job." Not everyone sees it that way. The way she said it, quiet and matter-of-fact, made Ryan's chest hurt. He thought about Richard Vaughn, about a man who saw his own daughter as a chess piece and felt that anger building again. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen. "Picking up Mia from school today. She's coming to me for dinner, giving you a break, no arguments." Ryan smiled despite himself. Mrs. Chen had been running interference for him since Karen left, taking Mia whenever his schedule got too tight, never asking for anything in return except that he accept a container of leftovers now and then. "Your neighbor?" Elena asked. "Yeah, she's watching Mia tonight, giving me a break." "She sounds nice." "She's a lifesaver. I don't know what I'd do without her." Elena was quiet again, staring at something Ryan couldn't see. "What's Mia like?" Ryan felt his whole face change. She's great, smart, funny, obsessed with dinosaurs right now. She corrects me on their names all the time. Apparently, it's not a brontosaurus, it's an apatosaurus. That's adorable. She's 6 years old and has more opinions than anyone I've ever met. Picks out her own clothes, refuses to wear anything that isn't pink or purple, once had a full meltdown at school because another kid said T-Rex was cooler than Stegosaurus. Elena laughed, a real laugh this time. She sounds amazing. She is. Ryan's smile faded, which is why I need you to understand. If this thing with your father puts her in danger, you're gone. I don't care how much you need help. I don't care what happens to you. She comes first, always. I understand, and I wouldn't expect anything different. Elena met his eyes. If it comes to that, I'll leave. You won't have to ask twice. Good. They ordered Chinese takeout for dinner, Elena insisting on paying even though Ryan protested. She called from Ryan's phone, disguising her voice slightly, probably paranoid about being traced. The food arrived 40 minutes later, and they ate in front of the TV, watching some mindless cop show neither of them was really paying attention to. This is weird, Elena said around a mouthful of lo mein. What is? This? Sitting here, eating takeout, watching TV. Normal things. She set her container down. I haven't done normal things in so long I forgot what it felt like. This is normal for you. Most people's normal doesn't include hiding from billionaire fathers. You know what I mean. No guards, no photographers, no one watching every move I make. Just being. Ryan understood that. Not the wealth part. He'd never had money to begin with. But the feeling of being trapped, of having your life dictated by forces outside your control. He'd felt it when Karen left, when the debt collectors started calling, when he realized he was going to spend the next decade working himself into the ground just to stay afloat. Can I ask you something now? He said. Fair's fair. What are you going to do? After you disappear, I mean. What kind of life are you going to have? Elena was quiet for a long time. I don't know. I've been so focused on getting away that I haven't really thought about what comes after. Maybe I'll go somewhere small, a town where nobody knows me. Get a job doing something simple, waitressing maybe, or working in a bookstore. You've never had a job before, have you? I volunteered at a literacy nonprofit in college. Does that count? Not even a little bit. Then no, I've never had a job. She picked at her noodles. I've never done a lot of things. Never paid a bill. Never done my own laundry, never grocery shopped. I'm 26 years old and I barely know how to function like a normal person. You're doing okay so far. I'm hiding in a stranger's apartment and eating Chinese food out of a container. The bar is pretty low. Ryan laughed. Hey, some people can't even manage that. They finished eating and cleaned up, Elena insisting on doing the dishes despite Ryan's protests. He watched her scrub the plates with an intensity that seemed excessive for the task, like she was trying to prove something to herself. You don't have to do that, he said. I want to. I need to feel useful. You're not a servant. I know, but if I'm staying here, I should contribute. Pull my weight. Ryan dried the dishes as she washed them, and they worked in companionable silence. It felt domestic in a way that made Ryan slightly uncomfortable. He hadn't had this, someone sharing his space, helping with mundane tasks since Karen left. And before that, it had been fraught with tension and unspoken resentment. This was different, easier. Where are you going to sleep? Elena asked when they finished. Couch, same as before. I can take the couch. You should have your daughter's bed. The couch is fine. I'm used to it. Ryan. Elena, just accept it. You're the guest. You get the bed. She looked like she wanted to argue more, but something in his expression must have convinced her to let it drop. Thank you. You've thanked me about 50 times today. You can stop. I'll stop when I stop feeling grateful. She went to bed early, exhausted from days of running and stress. Ryan gave her one of his t-shirts to sleep in again and pretended not to notice the way it hung on her frame, the way she looked young and vulnerable and nothing like the daughter of a billionaire. He pulled out the couch bed and lay there in the dark, listening to the sounds of the building settling, the distant wail of sirens, the bass still thumping from his neighbor's apartment. His ribs ached, his head ached. Every muscle in his body was screaming for rest, but his mind wouldn't shut off. He kept thinking about Richard Vaughn's phone call, about the casual way the man had threatened Ryan's entire life, about the kind of power it took to destroy someone with a few phone calls. He kept thinking about Elena, about the scars on her wrist, about the way she'd said everything is transactional, like it was the most normal thing in the world. And he kept thinking about Mia, about what would happen if Vaughn followed through on his threats. If Ryan lost his jobs, his apartment, if child services got involved because some fabricated accusation Vaughn's lawyers cooked up. He should kick Elena out, right now, tonight. Tell her to find someone else, someone with less to lose. But he knew he wouldn't, because maybe Karen had been right. Maybe he was too soft, too stupid to know when to quit. Or maybe he was just tired of watching people get crushed by systems bigger than themselves and doing nothing about it. Ryan must have fallen asleep eventually because he woke up to pale morning light and the smell of coffee. He sat up, disoriented, and saw Elena in the kitchen doing something at the stove. "You're cooking," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Scrambled eggs. I found a recipe online. I think I'm doing it wrong." Ryan got up and looked at the pan. The eggs were definitely overcooked, more brown than yellow. "You've never made eggs before?" "I told you, I've never done anything before." He took the spatula from her gently. "Here. Lower heat. Keep them moving. Take them off when they're still a little wet. They'll finish cooking in the pan. That seems counterintuitive. Trust me." They made breakfast together, Ryan coaching Elena through the basics of not burning food, and it was so absurdly normal that he almost forgot about everything else. Almost. His phone rang while they were eating, unknown number. Ryan answered it, his stomach sinking. "Hello?" "Mr. Cole," Richard Vaughn again. "What do you want?" "Have you heard from my daughter?" "No." "Are you certain? Because I have security footage of someone matching her description entering a coffee shop on Madison yesterday afternoon and leaving 20 minutes after you did." Ryan's blood turned to ice. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Please, we both know that's a lie." Vaughn's voice was calm, almost friendly. "Let me make this very simple for you. You have something I want. I have something you want. Let's make a deal." "I'm not interested in deals." "You haven't heard my offer yet. I'm willing to pay off your debt, all of it, $15,000, and another $20,000 on top of that as a thank you. In exchange, you tell me where my daughter is." $35,000. More money than Ryan had seen in his entire life, enough to wipe out the debt, quit his second job, actually have time with Mia. Enough to change everything. Elena was watching him from across the table, her face pale, like she knew exactly what was happening. "No," Ryan said. "No? I'm not selling out someone who needs help for money, no matter how much you're offering." There was a long pause. When Vaughn spoke again, the friendly tone was gone. "You're making a terrible mistake." "Probably, but it's my mistake to make." "We'll see how you feel when you're homeless and your daughter is in foster care." The line went dead. Ryan set the phone down carefully, his hands shaking. "How much did he offer?" Elena asked quietly. "Doesn't matter." "Ryan, it doesn't matter." He met her eyes. "I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it because it's right." Elena's eyes were wet again. "You're a good person." "I'm an idiot." "No. You're proof that not everyone is like him, that there are still people who do things because they're right, not because there's something in it for them." Ryan wanted to believe that, wanted to believe he was making the right choice, that standing up to a billionaire bully was worth risking everything. But when his phone buzzed again 20 minutes later with an email from the warehouse, "We need to talk about your employment status," he wondered if being good was enough. Ryan stared at the email on his phone screen until the words stopped making sense. "We need to talk about your employment status." 7 words that meant he was about to lose the job that paid most of his bills, the job that kept the lights on and food in Mia's stomach. "What is it?" Elena asked. He showed her the email without saying anything, watched her face go from confused to horrified. "He did this," she said. "My father, he's going after your job." "Yeah, I figured that out. You have to call them back. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them I forced you to help me." "That won't work. If your father wants me fired, I'm fired. He probably already has some story lined up about me stealing or harassing someone or whatever excuse will stick." Ryan set the phone down on the table, suddenly exhausted despite having just woken up. It's fine, I'll figure something out. It's not fine, this is my fault. You didn't make your father into a psychopath. But I brought this into your life. I should leave. Right now, before he does anything else. Ryan looked at her across the table, at the guilt and fear warring on her face, and felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been locked down tight since Karen left, since he decided that caring about anyone except Mia was a luxury he couldn't afford. No, he said. Ryan, I said no. You're not leaving. We're seeing this through. Seeing what through? He's going to destroy you. He's going to take everything you have. Then let him. I've been broke before. I'll figure it out. Ryan stood up, started pacing the small kitchen. You know what the worst part about being poor is? It's not the lack of money. It's the feeling that you don't have any choices, that you're just a passenger in your own life, going wherever the current takes you. He turned to face her. But this? Standing up to your father, helping you get free? That's a choice. Maybe the first real choice I've made in years. And I'm not backing down from it. Elena wiped at her eyes with the heel of her hand. You're insane. Probably, but I'm committed to the insanity now, so we might as well run with it. His phone rang. Jerry, from the warehouse. Ryan answered. Hey. Ryan, what the hell is going on? Jerry sounded stressed. I just got a call from corporate. They're saying you've been stealing inventory. That's bullshit. I know it's bullshit. I've worked with you for 3 years. You're the most honest guy I know. But they're sending down an investigator, and they've already suspended you pending the investigation. Ryan closed his eyes. Let me guess. The investigator is going to find exactly what they're looking for. What are you talking about? Nothing. Thanks for the heads up, Jerry. Ryan, if you're in some kind of trouble, I'm fine. It'll work out. He hung up before Jerry could ask more questions. Elena was standing now, too, arms wrapped around herself. I'm sorry, she said again. Stop apologizing. It's not helping. Then what can I do? How can I fix this? You can tell me about these people who can help you disappear, the ones you mentioned before. How soon can we contact them? Elena blinked. You're still going to help me? That's what I just said, wasn't it? Now answer the question. She pulled out her phone. A burner, Ryan noticed, not the expensive smartphone she'd probably had before, and scrolled through something. I have a contact. He specializes in helping people who need to vanish. New identities, documentation, relocation assistance, but it's expensive. How expensive? $50,000 for the full package. Ryan whistled. That's a lot of money. I have it. I've been moving funds into cryptocurrency accounts my father can't access. It's taken months, but I have enough. She looked up from the phone. The problem is the process takes time, at least a week, maybe 2, and that's assuming everything goes smoothly. So we need to keep you hidden for 2 weeks while this guy sets everything up. Yes, but now that my father knows you're helping me, he's going to be watching you constantly. We can't stay here. She was right. If Vaughn had security footage from the coffee shop, he probably had people watching Ryan's building right now. Maybe had cameras set up, tracking everyone who came and went. We need somewhere else, Ryan said. Somewhere he wouldn't think to look. Do you have friends? Family outside the city? Ryan thought about it. His mom was dead. His dad had taken off when Ryan was 12, and he hadn't heard from him since. No siblings. Most of his friends from high school had moved away or drifted apart, and the few work friends he had weren't close enough to ask for something like this. Except maybe one. There's someone, Ryan said slowly. A guy I served with. Did a tour in Afghanistan together about 10 years ago. We stayed in touch for a while after I got out, then lost contact. But last I heard he was living upstate, bought some property in the middle of nowhere. You think he'd help? I think he's the kind of guy who'd tell the government to go screw itself if they asked him for the time. So yeah, if anyone would tell a billionaire to go to hell, it's Marcus. Ryan dug through his contacts until he found the number. It was probably outdated. The last time they'd talked was maybe 3 years ago, but it was worth a shot. The phone rang 4 times before someone picked up. Yeah? A gruff voice, suspicious. Marcus, it's Ryan Cole. A pause. Then holy shit, Ryan, where the hell have you been, man? Long story. Listen, I need a favor, a big one. How big are we talking? I need a place to stay for a couple of weeks, me and a friend, somewhere off the grid. Another pause, longer this time. You in trouble? Depends on your definition of trouble. Is anyone shooting at you? Not yet. Marcus laughed, a sharp bark of sound. Not yet. Man, you always did have a gift for understatement. Yeah, come on up. I've got plenty of space and nothing but time. You remember how to get here? Send me the address. My phone might be compromised, so use this number to text me. Ryan rattled off the number for Elena's burner. Compromised? Jesus, what did you get yourself into? I'll explain when I see you. Thanks, Marcus. Don't thank me yet. You're going to have to help me fix my roof in exchange. Ryan hung up and looked at Elena. We've got a place. Are you sure we can trust him? Marcus saved my life in Kandahar, dragged me out of a building that was about to collapse. If I can trust anyone, it's him. Elena nodded, but she still looked uncertain. When do we leave? Soon as possible, but we've got a problem. What? Mia, I can't just take her out of school for 2 weeks without explaining why. And I can't explain why without putting her in danger. The reality of it hit him then, hard enough to make him sit down. He'd been so focused on helping Elena, on standing up to Vaughn, that he hadn't fully thought through what it meant for his daughter, taking her out of her routine, away from her friends and her school and the stability she needed, or leaving her behind. Mrs. Chen, Elena said quietly. What? Your neighbor, the one who helps with Mia. Could she take care of her while we're gone? Ryan's first instinct was to say no. He didn't leave Mia. Even when he was working 2 jobs, even when he was dead on his feet, he made it work. He picked her up from school, made her dinner, put her to bed. That was the deal he'd made with himself when Karen left. Mia would never feel abandoned again. But this was different. This was keeping her safe from a man who'd already threatened to destroy their lives. I don't know, Ryan said. That's a lot to ask. She cares about you. And Mia, she'd do it. Oh, and what do I tell her? That I'm hiding a runaway heiress from her billionaire father and need to disappear for 2 weeks? Tell her you got a job opportunity, something out of state. You need to go check it out, see if it's worth relocating for. It wasn't a terrible lie. And Mrs. Chen would believe it, especially if Ryan sold it right. She'd been encouraging him for months to look for better opportunities, to stop killing himself with 2 jobs. Okay, Ryan said. I'll talk to her. He went down the hall to Mrs. Chen's apartment, knocked on her door. She answered wearing an apron covered in flour, the smell of baking bread wafting out behind her. Ryan, I wasn't expecting you. Is everything all right? Yeah, Can I talk to you for a minute? She ushered him inside, sat him down at her small kitchen table, and poured him tea without asking if he wanted any. That was Mrs. Chen's way, feeding people, caring for them, whether they asked for it or not. What's wrong? She asked, sitting across from him. I need a favor, a big one. Name it. Ryan took a breath. I got offered a job. Construction work upstate. It's good money, way better than what I'm making now. But I need to go up there for a couple of weeks, do a trial run, see if it works out. Mrs. Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. And Mia? I was hoping you could watch her. I know it's a lot to ask, and I'll pay you to... Don't be ridiculous. Of course I'll watch her. She reached across the table and patted his hand. That child is like a granddaughter to me. It would be my pleasure. Relief flooded through Ryan so intense it almost made him dizzy. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd figure it out. You always do. She studied his face. But Ryan, you're sure everything is all right? You seem stressed. Just worried about money. You know how it is. I do. But I also know when someone is lying to me. She squeezed his hand. I'm not asking for details. Whatever you're dealing with, you'll handle it. But be careful. Mia needs her father. I will. I promise. Back in his apartment, Elena had packed her few belongings into a small backpack. Ryan threw some clothes into a duffel bag, added Mia's stuffed elephant at the last second in case she needed it, and tried to think through what else they'd need. His phone buzzed, a text from the mart, his second job. Hey man, corporate wants to see you tomorrow morning. Something about your background check. Probably nothing but thought you should know. So Vaughn was coming after both jobs simultaneously. Efficient. "We need to leave," Ryan said. "Now." They waited until after dark, when the streets would be busier and they could blend into the crowd. Ryan called Mrs. Chen and asked her to keep Mia for the night, said he had to leave early in the morning for the job interview. Then he and Elena slipped out of the building through the back entrance, the one that opened into the alley behind the dumpsters. The night was cold and damp, threatening rain. They walked 3 blocks in silence before Ryan flagged down a cab, gave the driver an address 6 blocks from the bus station. "You think we're being followed?" Elena asked quietly. "Probably, but we're going to make it hard for them." At the drop-off point, they got out and walked the rest of the way to the station, cutting through side streets and doubling back twice. Ryan had learned a few things in the military about evading surveillance, and while he was no expert, he knew enough to make their tail work for it. The bus station was exactly as depressing as Ryan remembered. Fluorescent lights, cracked plastic seats, the smell of cleaning chemicals, and desperation. He bought 2 tickets to a town an hour south of where Marcus actually lived, paying cash. They boarded the bus and found seats near the back. Elena kept her head down, hood pulled up, looking like any other tired traveler. Ryan watched the station through the window as the bus pulled out, looking for anyone paying too much attention. He didn't see anything obvious, but that didn't mean they were clear. The bus ride took 3 hours, stopping in every small town between the city and their destination. Elena fell asleep against the window, her face soft and unguarded in a way Ryan hadn't seen before. He watched the dark countryside roll by and tried not to think about everything he was leaving behind. His jobs, probably both of them gone by now. His apartment, which he'd probably lose next month when he couldn't make rent. The life he'd built, precarious as it was, crumbling because he'd decided to help a stranger on the subway. But when he looked at Elena sleeping, when he thought about the fear in her eyes on that train, he knew he'd make the same choice again. They got off the bus at a small town that looked like it had been dying slowly for the past 30 years. One main street, a few shops with lights still on, everything else dark and shuttered. Ryan woke Elena, and they walked to the 24-hour diner at the edge of town, ordered coffee they didn't want, and waited. Marcus pulled up 20 minutes later in a pickup truck that had seen better days. He was bigger than Ryan remembered, all muscle and beard and suspicious eyes that swept the parking lot before he got out. "You look like hell," Marcus said by way of greeting. "Good to see you too." Marcus pulled Ryan into a rough hug, then turned to Elena. "And you must be the friend." "Elena." She held out her hand. Marcus shook it, his expression unreadable. "Let's get out of here. We can talk at my place." The drive took another 40 minutes, down progressively smaller roads until they were on what was basically a dirt track through the woods. Marcus's property appeared suddenly. A cabin that was more house than cabin, surrounded by trees and what looked like a workshop off to one side. "Home sweet home," Marcus said, killing the engine. "I've got 2 spare bedrooms. Both have locks if you need them. Food in the kitchen, help yourself to whatever. And if anyone comes looking for you, they're going to have to go through me first." "Thanks, man," Ryan said. "I owe you." "Yeah, you do. Now, get inside before you freeze your asses off." The cabin was warm and smelled like wood smoke and coffee. Marcus showed them to the spare rooms, one with a double bed, one with a twin, and left them to get settled. Ryan took the twin. Elena took the double. They met back in the living room where Marcus had started a fire in the stone fireplace. "All right," Marcus said, settling into a worn armchair. "You going to tell me what this is about, or do I have to guess?" Ryan told him. All of it. The subway, the fight, Elena's father, the threats, the jobs. Marcus listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker as the story went on. When Ryan finished, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at Elena. "Your father sounds like a real piece of work." "That's putting it mildly," Elena said. "And you?" Marcus turned to Ryan. "You jumped into a fight with 2 guys, knowing you'd probably lose because a stranger needed help. When you say it like that, it sounds stupid." "It is stupid. It's also the most Ryan Cole thing I've ever heard." Marcus shook his head. "You always did have a hero complex." "I don't have a hero complex. You dragged 3 guys out of a burning building in Kandahar when you were supposed to be pulling back. You absolutely have a hero complex." Elena looked at Ryan with something like surprise. "You never mentioned that." "It's not relevant." "The hell it's not," Marcus said. "It's completely relevant. It means you can't help yourself from helping people, even when it's the dumb thing to do. Ryan didn't have an answer for that, so he kept his mouth shut. Marcus stood up. You can stay here as long as you need. I've got no love for rich assholes who think their money makes them kings. But you need to understand something. If this guy is as powerful as you say, he's going to find you eventually. And when he does, things are going to get ugly. I know. Do you? Because I don't think you're really processing what you've gotten yourself into here. This isn't some back alley fight. This is a man with unlimited resources who's decided you're his enemy. He's not going to stop until he gets what he wants. Then we make sure he doesn't get it, Ryan said. Marcus studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but we do this smart. No more running around the city like you're in a spy movie. You stay here, you keep your heads down, and you let me handle anyone who comes sniffing around. I can't ask you to fight my battles. You're not asking. I'm offering. Besides, I've been bored as hell out here. This'll be fun. Elena spoke up for the first time since they'd arrived. Why are you helping us? You don't know me. You haven't seen Ryan in years. Marcus looked at her, then at Ryan. Because 10 years ago, this idiot risked his life to save mine. And because I like pissing off rich people who think they can do whatever they want. He grinned. Plus, like I said, I'm bored. They spent the next 3 days in a strange kind of limbo. Ryan called Mrs. Chen every day to check on Mia, making up stories about the job interview, about the people he was meeting. Mia sounded happy, excited even, treating it like an adventure to stay with Mrs. Chen. That should have made Ryan feel better, but instead it just made the ache in his chest worse. Elena contacted her guy, a man she only ever referred to as V, and started the process of creating her new identity. It required photos, information, biometric data that V would use to create a passport, driver's license, social security number. All of it fake, all of it untraceable. Who is this guy? Ryan asked, watching Elena photograph herself against a white wall in Marcus's workshop. I don't know his real name. I found him through someone on a privacy forum. He specializes in helping people disappear. And you trust him? As much as I trust anyone. She adjusted the camera angle. He's expensive enough that he doesn't need to scam people. His reputation is worth more than whatever he could make by selling me out. That's not exactly reassuring. It's the best I've got. Marcus taught Ryan how to chop wood properly, claiming the physical labor would help clear his head. He wasn't wrong. There was something meditative about the repetitive motion, the solid thunk of the axe hitting wood, the pile of split logs growing beside him. You're thinking too much, Marcus said, watching Ryan work. Can't help it. Yeah, you can. You just choose not to. Marcus picked up a log and set it on the chopping block. What's really bothering you? What isn't bothering me? I've lost my jobs, probably going to lose my apartment, and I'm hiding in the woods from a billionaire who wants to destroy me. That's surface stuff. What's underneath? Ryan brought the axe down, split the log clean in two. I keep thinking about Mia, about what happens if Vaughn follows through on his threats, if child services shows up, if they decide I'm unfit. What if I lose her? You won't. You don't know that. No, but I know you, and I know you'd fight through hell to keep that kid safe. Marcus set another log on the block. The question is, are you going to let fear control you, or are you going to control the fear? Ryan swung the axe again, felt the impact vibrate up his arms. How do I do that? You focus on what you can control. Right now, that's keeping Elena safe until she can disappear. Everything else, you deal with when it comes. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He lay in the twin bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the forest outside. Around midnight, he heard footsteps in the hall, then a soft knock on his door. Ryan, you awake? Elena. He got up and opened the door. She was wearing one of his t-shirts again, her hair loose around her shoulders. Can't sleep, she said. Me neither. They went to the living room where the fire had burned down to embers. Ryan added another log and they sat on the couch, watching the flames catch. I'm scared, Elena said quietly. Of what? Of everything. Of my father finding us. Of this not working. Of finally getting free and having no idea what to do with it. She pulled her knees up to her chest. I've been running for so long, I've forgotten what it's like to just exist. You'll figure it out. Will I? I don't know how to be a normal person. I don't know how to have friends or relationships or a job. I'm 26 years old and I'm basically useless. You're not useless. Name one useful thing I can do. You made eggs the other day. They were terrible. Yeah, but you tried. That counts for something. Ryan shifted to face her. Look, I don't know what your life is going to look like after this, but I know you're stronger than you think you are. You've survived this long against a man who controls everything. That takes guts. Or stupidity. Maybe both. But you're still here, still fighting. That means something. Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was small. What if I don't know how to be anything other than his daughter? Then you learn, same way everyone else learns. You try things, you fail, you try again. What if I fail at everything? Then you fail. It's not the end of the world. She looked at him, eyes reflecting the firelight. How are you so calm about all this? I'm not calm. I'm terrified. But being terrified doesn't help, so I'm choosing to focus on what I can control, which is making sure you get out of this alive, making sure Mia stays safe. Everything else is just noise. Elena leaned her head against his shoulder, a gesture so unexpected that Ryan froze for a second before relaxing into it. Thank you, she said, for everything, for being stupid enough to help me. You're welcome. They sat there until the fire burned down again, and Elena fell asleep, her head still on his shoulder. Ryan stayed awake, watching the embers glow and fade, and tried not to think about what would happen when she disappeared for good. On the fourth day, Marcus came back from a supply run looking grim. We've got a problem, he said. Ryan felt his stomach drop. What kind of problem? The kind where there's a black SUV parked at the gas station in town, and the two guys inside were showing your picture around. Elena went pale. He found us. He found the town. He hasn't found the cabin yet, but it's only a matter of time. How long do you think we have? Ryan asked. A day, maybe 2 if we're lucky. This isn't exactly a big place. They'll canvass every property within 20 miles. Elena stood up, started pacing. We need to move again, somewhere else. Where? Ryan asked. We're running out of places to run. I don't know, but we can't stay here. We can't put Marcus in danger. Too late for that, Marcus said. The second you showed up, I was in danger, but I'm not kicking you out. You have to. If they find us here, then they find us here, and they're going to wish they hadn't. Ryan looked at his friend. Marcus, you don't have to do this. Yeah, I do, because that's what brothers do. Marcus grabbed his jacket. I'm going back into town. Gonna see what else I can find out about these guys. You two stay here, stay quiet. If anyone comes up that road, you hide. Understood? Understood, Ryan said. After Marcus left, the cabin felt too quiet. Elena resumed her pacing, wearing a track in the wooden floor. Ryan tried to think through their options, but kept coming back to the same dead end. They couldn't run forever. Eventually, Vaughn would catch up to them. And when he did, Ryan had no illusions about how it would end, unless they changed the game. What if we didn't run? Ryan said. Elena stopped pacing. What? What if instead of hiding, we went public? Told your story to the media, exposed what your father's been doing. I already told you he owns half the media. Who's going to publish it? Someone. There has to be someone who's not in his pocket. And you think they'll believe me over him? The mentally unstable daughter with no proof? Do you have proof? Elena hesitated. Maybe. I have emails, text messages, documentation of the arranged marriage, medical records he had fabricated. I've been collecting evidence for months, keeping it all in encrypted cloud storage. Then that's our play. We find a journalist who'll run the story, someone with enough credibility that your father can't shut them down. That's insane. More insane than hiding in a cabin waiting to get caught? Elena stared at him, and he could see the wheels turning in her head. If we do this, if we go public, there's no going back. My father will come after both of us with everything he has. He's already doing that. This would be different. This would be war. Then let's go to war. Ryan stood up, crossed to where she was standing. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of letting people like your father do whatever they want because they have money and power. Maybe we can't win, But maybe we can make enough noise that someone else pays attention. Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, let's do it. They spent the rest of the day researching journalists, looking for someone with a track record of taking on powerful people. Elena accessed her encrypted files, started compiling the evidence into something coherent. Marcus came back as the sun was setting, shaking his head. They're still there. Asked half the people in town if they'd seen you. Most folks told them to go to hell, but it's only a matter of time before someone talks. We're not running, Ryan said. Excuse me? We're going on the offensive. Elena's got evidence against her father. We're going to find someone to publish it. Marcus looked between them. You're serious? Completely. A slow grin spread across Marcus's face. About damn time. I was getting tired of all this hiding bullshit. He pulled out his phone. I know a guy, investigative reporter, works for a major paper. He owes me a favor. How does a guy living in the middle of nowhere know an investigative reporter? Elena asked. Long story involving a corrupt sheriff and a meth lab. Point is, he's solid. If there's a story here, he'll run it. Can we trust him? Ryan asked. As much as we can trust anyone, which isn't much, but it's what we've got. Marcus made the call. 5 minutes of conversation Ryan couldn't quite hear, then he hung up. He's interested, wants to meet with Elena, review the evidence. If it checks out, he'll run it. When? Elena asked. Tomorrow. There's a diner 2 hours from here. Neutral ground. Ryan felt something shift in his chest. This was it. The moment where they either went all in or folded. We do this. There's no going back, he said to Elena. She met his eyes. I know. Your father is going to come after us harder than ever. I know that too. And you're sure? Elena took a breath. I've spent my whole life being afraid. Afraid of my father. Afraid of what he could do. Afraid to fight back. I'm done being afraid. Whatever happens, at least I'll have tried. Ryan nodded. Okay then, we do this together. The next morning, they left Marcus's cabin before dawn. The plan was simple. Meet the reporter, hand over the evidence, let him verify it. If he decided to run the story, they'd deal with the fallout. If he didn't, they'd figure out plan B. Marcus drove, taking back roads and watching the mirrors constantly. Ryan sat in the passenger seat, Elena in the back, and nobody talked. The weight of what they were about to do hung heavy in the truck. They were 10 minutes from the diner when Marcus swore under his breath. What? Ryan asked. Black SUV. 3 cars back. Ryan checked the side mirror. Sure enough, a black SUV was trailing them, maintaining a steady distance. They followed us from the cabin, Elena said, her voice tight. How long have they been there? Ryan asked. Since we hit the main road. I was hoping I was wrong. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. Hang on. He took a sudden right turn onto a side road, accelerating hard. The SUV followed, closing the distance. They're not even trying to hide it, Ryan said. Because they don't have to. They've got us. Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror. All right, new plan? We lose them, then we get to the diner. And if we can't lose them? Then we don't make it to the diner. Marcus pushed the truck faster, taking turns that made the tires scream. The SUV kept pace, professional and relentless. They were being herded, Ryan realized. Pushed away from the main roads, away from witnesses, towards somewhere isolated where Vaughn's men could do whatever they'd been sent to do. There, Elena said, pointing. That road. It leads to a state park. There'll be people there. Marcus took the turn. The state park entrance appeared ahead, but it was closed. A chain stretched across the road with a sign that said no entry. Maintenance. Forget it, Marcus said, and drove right through the chain. The truck bounced over rough terrain, the suspension groaning in protest. Behind them, the SUV followed through the broken chain, its engine roaring. They emerged into a parking area overlooking a lake, empty except for a maintenance truck and some construction equipment. Marcus slammed on the brakes, threw the truck into park. Out! Now! They piled out. The SUV screeched to a stop 20 feet away. Both front doors opened and 2 men got out. One was the tall guy from the subway. The other was someone new, older, harder looking, with the kind of calm that came from knowing he could handle whatever came next. Miss Vaughn, the older one said, your father would like you to come home. I'm not going anywhere with you, Elena said. That's unfortunate, but it's not really up for debate. He looked at Ryan. Mr. Cole, you've been a thorn in Mr. Vaughn's side. He's offered you a very generous opportunity to walk away from this. I suggest you take it. I suggest you get back in your car and leave, Ryan said. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I was hoping you'd say that. He moved fast for someone his age, crossing the distance between them before Ryan could react. A fist caught him in the stomach, driving the air from his lungs. Ryan staggered back, tried to throw a punch, but the man blocked it easily and hit him again, this time in the face. Ryan went down hard, tasting blood. Through blurred vision, he saw Marcus step forward. You want to try that with someone your own size? Marcus said. The tall guy from the subway moved to intercept. Marcus hit him once, a solid punch that would have dropped most people. The tall guy barely flinched. Then they were fighting, really fighting, and Ryan realized these weren't just security guards. These were trained professionals, probably ex-military or law enforcement, and they were way out of their league. Elena was screaming something, but Ryan couldn't hear it over the ringing in his ears. He tried to stand, made it to his knees before the older man kicked him back down. Stay down, the man said. This doesn't have to be harder than it needs to be. But Ryan didn't stay down. He grabbed a rock from the ground and swung it at the man's knee. Connected. The man stumbled, swore, and Ryan used the moment to tackle him. They hit the ground together. The man rolled, got on top, and Ryan knew he was about to get hurt badly. But then there was a crunch of gravel and the man's weight disappeared. Marcus had thrown the tall guy into the older one, sending both men sprawling. He grabbed Ryan's arm and hauled him up. Get Elena to the diner. I'll hold them off. Marcus, go! Ryan grabbed Elena's hand and ran. Behind them, he heard Marcus shouting, heard the sounds of fighting resume. They made it to Marcus's truck, but the keys were gone. Marcus still had them. The construction equipment, Elena said, pointing to a bulldozer parked nearby. They ran to it, and Ryan thanked every deity he'd never believed in that the keys were in the ignition. The engine roared to life, loud and rumbling. Ryan threw it into gear, and it lurched forward, slow but unstoppable. Behind them, one of Vaughn's men broke away from Marcus and sprinted toward them. Ryan kept the bulldozer moving, aimed it toward the road. The man jumped onto the side, trying to climb up. Elena grabbed a wrench from the equipment panel and swung it, caught the man in the shoulder. He fell off, rolling across the ground. They made it to the road, but the bulldozer was painfully slow. Maybe 15 miles an hour, max. The SUV was faster. If they followed, but they didn't. When Ryan looked back, he saw why. Marcus had gotten to the SUV, had disabled it somehow, maybe slashed the tires. The two men were on foot now, and Marcus was standing between them and the bulldozer, arms crossed, daring them to try. Ryan's eyes burned. He wanted to go back, wanted to help his friend, but he knew what Marcus would say. Complete the mission. So he kept driving, the bulldozer rumbling down the road at an agonizing pace, until they finally reached the highway and Ryan flagged down a passing truck. The driver took one look at Ryan's bloody face and Elena's terrified expression and called the police. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and decades of bureaucratic exhaustion. Ryan sat in a plastic chair with an ice pack pressed to his face while a deputy took Elena's statement in another room. His ribs screamed every time he breathed, and he was pretty sure the cut above his eyebrow needed stitches, but all he could think about was Marcus. A state trooper named Williams had driven back to the park with backup. They'd found Marcus's truck, the disabled SUV, signs of a fight. But no Marcus, no Vaughn's men, just tire tracks leading away and blood on the gravel that the troopers were photographing like it might tell them something useful. Mr. Cole? A detective appeared in front of him, mid-40s with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his tie. I'm Detective Ramos. You want to tell me what happened out there? Ryan lowered the ice pack. I already gave my statement to the deputy. I read it. Sounded like a creative writing exercise. So let's try again, and this time give me something I can actually work with. 2 men attacked us. We defended ourselves and got away. 2 men in a black SUV. Who worked for Richard Vaughn? The billionaire, Richard Vaughn. That's what I said. Ramos pulled up a chair and sat down, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Here's my problem, Mr. Cole. You're telling me that one of the richest men in the country sent hired muscle to kidnap his adult daughter. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Maybe it is. But truth and proof are different things. And right now, all I've got is your word, some tire tracks, and a missing person who may or may not want to be found. Marcus didn't choose to disappear. They took him. You saw them take him? Ryan hesitated. No, we were already driving away, but he was holding them off so we could escape. So you don't actually know what happened after you left. I know Marcus wouldn't just abandon us. Ramos sat back, studying Ryan's face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. You've got a record, couple of bar fights, nothing serious, Army veteran, honorable discharge, 2 jobs, single father, by all accounts, a decent guy trying to do right by his kid. He paused. So what are you doing mixed up with Elena Vaughn? Helping someone who needed help. That's very noble. Also very stupid, if what you're saying about her father is true. Ramos pulled out a notepad. Walk me through it. From the beginning. How did you meet her? So Ryan told him. The subway, the fight, Elena showing up at the coffee shop, everything. He left out the parts about Marcus's cabin and their plan to go to the media, but he gave Ramos enough to understand the shape of it. When he finished, Ramos was quiet for a long moment. You believe me? Ryan asked. I believe you believe it. Whether it's true is another question. Ramos stood up. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to contact Mr. Vaughn's office, ask some questions. If your friend Marcus turns up, we'll want to talk to him. In the meantime, you and Miss Vaughn are free to go, but don't leave the state. What about protection? If Vaughn sent men after us once, if you feel threatened, you can request protective custody. But based on what you've told me, I don't have probable cause to arrest anyone. No crime was committed that I can prove. They attacked us. You say they attacked you. They'll probably say you attacked them first. Without witnesses or physical evidence, it's your word against theirs. Ramos handed Ryan a card. You think of anything else, you call me. And Mr. Cole, be careful. Men like Richard Vaughn don't play fair. Ryan found Elena in the waiting area, looking small and lost in a chair that was too big for her. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying, but her face was set in hard lines. They're not going to do anything, she said as soon as she saw him. I know. My father probably called here the second we left the park. Told them I'm mentally unstable, that you kidnapped me. They're going to believe him over us. Maybe not. Ramos seemed like he was actually listening. Listening isn't the same as believing. Elena stood up. We need to get to that reporter. It's the only chance we have. Ryan's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, saw a text from an unknown number. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. Finish what you started. M. Relief flooded through him so intense it made him dizzy. Marcus was alive. Wherever he was, whatever had happened, he was alive. He showed the text to Elena. She read it, and some of the tension left her shoulders. How do we get to the diner? She asked. We walk, or hitchhike. Our options are kind of limited right now. They ended up taking a cab that Ramos arranged, the detective giving them enough side-eye to make it clear he thought they were trouble, but not enough to actually stop them. The diner was 40 minutes away, a chrome and neon relic on the edge of a highway, the kind of place that served breakfast 24 hours and never quite managed to get the coffee right. The reporter was already there when they arrived. He was younger than Ryan expected, maybe 35, with dark-rimmed glasses and the kind of casual clothes that probably cost more than Ryan's entire wardrobe. He stood when they approached, hand extended. Elena Vaughn? Yes. Daniel Cho, Washington Herald. Marcus said you had a story for me. They slid into the booth across from him. A waitress appeared, poured coffee nobody wanted, and disappeared again. Cho pulled out a tablet and a small recorder. Before we start, I need to tell you how this works. Anything you tell me is on the record unless you specifically say otherwise. I verify everything you claim through independent sources. If I can't verify it, I don't print it. And if I do print it, you need to be prepared for the consequences. People don't like being exposed, especially people with money and power. I understand, Elena said. Good. Then let's start with why you're here. Why now? Your father's been trying to arrange this marriage for 2 years, according to my initial research. What changed? Elena took a breath and started talking. She told him everything. The controlling childhood, the isolated college experience, the arranged marriage, the 3 times she'd tried to run. She told him about the men on the subway, about Ryan stepping in, about her father's threats. And then she pulled out her phone and showed him the evidence. Cho went through it methodically, his expression never changing. Emails from Richard Vaughn to the Cortland Group, discussing the merger terms and explicitly referring to Elena as part of the package. Text messages from Cameron Cortland to Elena, casually discussing their future arrangement like it was a business contract. Medical records from a psychiatrist Elena had never met, claiming she'd been treated for delusional disorder and required medication. These could be fabricated, Cho said, but his eyes said he didn't think they were. They're not. You can verify them. The emails came from my father's business account. The medical records are in the state database under my name. All of it is real. Cho made notes on his tablet, his fingers moving fast. What about witnesses? Anyone who can corroborate your account? My former roommate at Yale, she saw how my father controlled everything. And there are employees at his company who know what he's really like, but they're all too afraid to talk. I'll need names. Elena gave him 3 names, people she'd known, people she trusted. Cho wrote them down. Then he turned to Ryan. And you're the guy from the subway. Yeah. Why did you help her? Because she needed help. That's it? You didn't know who she was, didn't know what you were getting into? I knew she was scared, that was enough. Cho studied him for a moment, then went back to his tablet. I'm going to need a few days to verify everything. Check the emails, talk to sources, build a case that'll hold up. If everything checks out, I'll run it. Front page, full exposure. How long? Elena asked. 3 days. Maybe 4? We might not have that long. My father's men are already after us. Then I suggest you find somewhere safe to hide until I can publish. Cho closed his tablet. Look, I know this is hard, but if I run a story this big without solid verification, your father's lawyers will tear it apart and sue us into oblivion. I need time to do this right. Ryan felt frustration building in his chest. 3 or 4 days felt like an eternity when men with guns were looking for them. But he understood. Cho was right. They only got one shot at this. If the story fell apart, Vaughn would spin it as more evidence of Elena's mental instability, and they'd lose any credibility they had. Where should we go? Ryan asked. Somewhere public. Somewhere with witnesses. Cho thought for a moment. There's a shelter downtown, Women's Crisis Center. They don't ask questions and they don't give out information. Elena could stay there. What about Ryan? Elena asked. He can't stay there. It's women only. Then I'm not going. Elena, I'm not splitting up. Not now. She looked at Ryan. We're in this together. Cho sighed. Fine. But you need to be smart about this. Stay off your phones. Use cash only. Don't contact anyone from your old life. And for the love of everything, don't do anything that makes you look unstable or dangerous. Your father is going to use everything he can against you. They left the diner as the sun was starting to set, the sky turning orange and purple over the highway. Ryan's body was one big ache, and he was pretty sure he had a concussion from the fight at the park, but they didn't have time to stop. Where do we go? Elena asked. Ryan thought about it. The shelter was an option, but only for Elena. A motel would leave a paper trail. Going back to the city was suicide. Then he remembered something. There's a church about an hour from here, St. Michael's. They run a community center with beds for people who need them. No questions asked. You think they'd take us? Only one way to find out. They walked to a gas station, and Ryan called the number from a payphone that looked like it had been installed sometime in the 80s. A woman answered, her voice warm and slightly out of breath. St. Michael's Community Outreach. This is Sister Margaret. Hi, I'm looking for a place to stay, me and a friend, just for a few nights. Are you in immediate danger? Ryan glanced at Elena. Potentially. Then come on over. We've got room. The church was exactly what Ryan had pictured. White clapboard siding, stained glass windows, a community center attached to the main building that looked like it had been added sometime in the 60s. Sister Margaret met them at the door, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and the kind of practical energy that suggested she'd seen it all and wasn't impressed by much. She took one look at Ryan's face and Elena's exhausted expression and ushered them inside without asking questions. We've got 2 beds available in the men's wing and 3 in the women's, she said, leading them down a hallway. Separate wings, house rules, breakfast at 7, dinner at 6. You're expected to help with chores if you're staying more than one night. We can do that, Ryan said. She showed Elena to a small room with 2 single beds and a cross on the wall. Then she took Ryan to a similar room in the other wing, this one with 4 beds, 3 of them occupied by men who looked like they'd fallen on hard times and were trying to climb back up. Bathrooms down the hall. There's donated clothes in the closet if you need them. And Ryan? Sister Margaret fixed him with a look that was equal parts kind and no nonsense. Whatever trouble you're running from, it stops at that door. We don't allow violence here. If someone comes looking for you, we call the police. Understood? Understood, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank whoever convinced you that running to a church was a good idea. Ryan tried to sleep, but couldn't. His mind kept spinning, running through everything that had happened, everything that could still go wrong. Around midnight, he gave up and went to the common room, found a battered couch, and an ancient TV playing infomercials. Elena found him there 20 minutes later. Can't sleep either? She asked. Nope. She sat down next to him, pulled her knees up to her chest. On the TV, someone was demonstrating a vegetable chopper that could apparently change your life. I keep thinking about Marcus, Elena said, about what might have happened to him. He texted, said he was okay. But what if he's not? What if my father did something to him? Marcus can handle himself, and he told us to finish what we started, so that's what we're going to do. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then, what happens after? After the story runs? After my father's exposed? What happens to us? Ryan didn't have an answer for that. He'd been so focused on getting through the next day, the next hour, that he hadn't let himself think about after. I don't know, he said honestly. Will you go back to the city? To Mia? If I still have an apartment to go back to. If Child Services hasn't already taken her away. They wouldn't do that. You're a good father. Good fathers don't put their kids at risk by hiding runaway heiresses. Good fathers stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. Ryan looked at her, at the way the blue light from the TV made her face look younger, more vulnerable. What about you? After you disappear, I mean. Where will you go? I don't know. Somewhere far away. Somewhere my father will never find me. She paused. Somewhere I can figure out who I am when I'm not his daughter. You'll figure it out. Will I? Her voice was small. I don't know how to be anyone else. Then you'll learn. You're tougher than you think. Elena leaned her head against his shoulder, the same way she had at Marcus's cabin. And just like then, Ryan felt something shift in his chest, something he'd been trying very hard not to examine too closely. I'm scared, she said. Me too. What are you scared of? Ryan thought about it. Losing Mia, failing you, being the kind of person who walks away when things get hard. You could never be that person. You don't know that. Yes, I do. You've already proven it, multiple times. They sat there until the infomercials gave way to early morning news, neither of them sleeping, both of them too wired to even try. When the sun started to rise, Sister Margaret found them and put them to work in the kitchen, peeling potatoes for dinner later that day. It was strangely calming, the repetitive work. Ryan's hands remembered the motion from his time in the army, from KP duty that he'd hated at the time, but now felt almost nostalgic. Elena struggled with it at first, cutting the potatoes into uneven chunks, but Sister Margaret showed her how to hold the peeler, and she got better. You two make a good team, Sister Margaret observed, watching them work. We're just friends, Ryan said automatically. I didn't say you weren't. She smiled. But you should see the way you look at her when you think she's not paying attention. Ryan felt heat rise in his face. It's all right. I've been running this center for 30 years. I've seen a lot of people come through those doors. Some are running from something, some are running to something. You're both, I think. She left them to finish the potatoes. Elena was grinning. Shut up, Ryan said. I didn't say anything. You were thinking it. Maybe. But she's not wrong. Ryan focused very intently on the potato in his hand. We should stay focused on the plan. Getting you out of here safely. Right, the plan. Elena's grin faded. Do you think it'll work? The story, I mean. I don't know, but it's the best shot we've got. That afternoon, Cho called. Ryan answered on Elena's burner phone. I verified the emails, Cho said without preamble. They're legitimate. I also spoke to your former roommate, Elena. She corroborated your account. Said your father had security guards following you at Yale, monitoring your phone calls. So you'll run the story? Elena asked, leaning close to hear. I'm going to run it, but I need you both on record. Full interview with your faces and names attached. It's the only way this has the impact we need. Ryan felt his stomach drop. That makes us targets. You're already targets, but if this story runs with full attribution, it's harder for Vaughn to make you disappear. There's accountability. Or it just makes it easier for him to find us, Ryan said. That's a risk, but it's a calculated one. Once this goes public, the court of public opinion becomes your protection. Elena looked at Ryan, silently asking the question. He could see the fear in her eyes, but also the determination. Okay, Ryan said. We'll do it. Good. I need you both in D.C. tomorrow. We'll do the interview at our office, get it on record. The story runs the day after. They took a bus to D.C. the next morning, both of them jumpy every time someone looked at them too long. The Herald's offices were in a glass tower downtown, all modern and sterile. Cho met them in the lobby and took them up to a conference room with cameras already set up. This is going to be recorded and streamed live during the interview, he explained. We want to make sure there's no question about authenticity. Your father can't claim we edited your words or fabricated anything. Liv? Elena's voice was tight. You mean people will be watching? The story will be posted simultaneously with the interview. By the time your father knows what's happening, it'll already be out there. They sat down in front of the cameras. A technician clipped microphones to their shirts. Ryan's hands were sweating. Across from them, Cho reviewed his notes one last time. Ready? He asked. Ryan looked at Elena. She nodded. Ready? The cameras went live. A red light blinked on. Cho looked directly into the lens. This is Daniel Cho with the Washington Herald. I'm here with Elena Vaughn, daughter of billionaire developer Richard Vaughn, and Ryan Cole, the man who helped her escape what she describes as years of control and abuse. Miss Vaughn, let's start with you. Tell us about your father. And Elena told the world everything. She talked about the isolation, the surveillance, the way her father had controlled every aspect of her life. She showed the emails, the medical records, the evidence of the arranged marriage. She talked about running away 3 times, about the people her father had destroyed for helping her. Cho asked pointed questions, pushing for details, making sure nothing could be dismissed as exaggeration or mental instability. And Elena answered all of it, her voice steady even when Ryan could see her hands shaking under the table. Then Cho turned to Ryan. Mr. Cole, you're a single father working 2 jobs. What made you decide to get involved in this? Ryan thought about the question, about all the easy answers he could give, but in the end, he went with the truth. I saw someone who needed help. That's all it took. Even though it cost you your jobs, your home, put you and your daughter at risk? Even though... Why? Ryan looked at the camera, thinking about everyone watching. About Mia, who would probably see this someday. About Karen, who told him he was too soft. About his mother, who'd taught him that you don't walk away when people need you. Because the alternative is being the kind of person who looks away. And I can't be that person. I won't be. The interview lasted 2 hours. By the time it was over, Ryan felt like he'd been wrung out and hung up to dry. But when he checked his phone, the story was already spreading. Trending on social media, news outlets picking it up. People commenting, sharing, reacting. And then his phone rang. Richard Vaughn. Ryan answered, putting it on speaker so Elena and Cho could hear. You've made a serious mistake, Mr. Cole. I don't think I have. This story, this pathetic attempt at character assassination, it will fail. My lawyers are already preparing defamation suits against you, Miss Cho and the Herald. You'll be bankrupt by the end of the month. Maybe. But everyone knows the truth now. The truth? Vaughn laughed, cold and sharp. The truth is what I say it is. I have more money, more power, more connections than you can imagine. This is a speed bump, nothing more. We'll see. Yes? We will. There was a pause. I want you to understand something, Mr. Cole. I offered you a way out. Multiple ways out. You chose this. So whatever happens next, it's on you. The line went dead. Ryan set the phone down. His hands were shaking now too. He's going to come after us, Elena said quietly. I know. Cho leaned back in his chair. The story's out there now. Whatever he does, the world is watching. That's your best protection. Ryan hoped he was right. But he'd seen what Vaughn was capable of. He'd seen how men with unlimited resources could make problems disappear. And he had a very bad feeling that this was just the beginning. His phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at the Lincoln Memorial. 30 minutes. Come alone. M. Marcus. Ryan showed the text to Elena. I have to go. Not alone. I'm coming with you. The text said, I don't care what it said. We're in this together, remember? They took a cab to the memorial, Ryan watching the mirrors the whole way, looking for tails. The memorial was crowded with tourists taking photos, kids running up and down the steps. Ryan scanned the crowd, looking for Marcus. He was standing at the top of the steps, looking out over the reflecting pool. When he saw Ryan and Elena, he walked down to meet them. He looked rough, bruises on his face, a cut above his eye that had been butterfly bandaged. But he was smiling. You did it, Marcus said. I saw the interview. It's everywhere. What happened to you? Ryan asked. Vaughn's guys took me to some warehouse, tried to get me to tell them where you were going. I told them to go to hell. Eventually they realized I wasn't going to talk and dumped me on a back road somewhere. Took me a day to get back to civilization. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I told you I was bored. This was the most fun I've had in years. Marcus's grin faded. But you need to know something. While they had me, I heard them talking. Vaughn's planning something big. He's not going to let this story stand. What kind of something? I don't know. But they mentioned a name. Cameron Cortland, the guy Elena was supposed to marry. Elena went pale. What about him? They said he's involved, that he and Vaughn have a plan to discredit the story, make it look like you fabricated everything. How? I don't know, but whatever it is, it's happening soon. Ryan felt ice in his veins. They just played their biggest card. If Vaughn and Cortland had a way to undermine it, everything they'd done would be for nothing. We need to talk to Cho, Elena said. Warn him. They went back to the Herald offices, Marcus in tow. Cho listened to what Marcus had overheard, his expression growing darker. If they're planning a counterattack, it'll probably come through a proxy, Cho said. Someone who can claim Elena manipulated them, or that she's unstable. Someone with credibility. Cameron Cortland has credibility, Elena said. His family is almost as powerful as my father's. If he says I'm lying, people will believe him. Then we need to get ahead of it. I'll reach out to my sources, see if I can find out what they're planning. But before Cho could make any calls, his assistant burst into the room. You need to see this. She pulled up a video on her tablet. It was a press conference. Cameron Cortland standing in front of a bank of microphones, looking somber and concerned. I'm here today to address the recent allegations made by Elena Vaughn, Cortland said. Elena and I have known each other for years. We were close once, and it breaks my heart to see her struggling like this. Oh no, Elena whispered. Elena has battled mental health issues for a long time, Cortland continued. Her father has done everything he can to get her help. But she's refused treatment, made wild accusations, and unfortunately drawn innocent people into her delusions. Cortland looked directly into the camera. I want to be clear. There was never any arranged marriage. The merger between our companies has nothing to do with Elena. She's created this elaborate fiction because she's unwell, and she needs help. The press conference continued, but Ryan had stopped listening. He looked at Elena and saw tears streaming down her face. He's lying, she said. He's lying, and everyone's going to believe him. Cho was already on his phone pulling up social media. The comment section under the Herald story was filling up with people questioning Elena's credibility. Within minutes, the narrative was shifting. They'd lost. All of it. The evidence, the interview, the risk, and it hadn't been enough. Ryan felt rage building in his chest, hot and overwhelming. This was what wealth bought. Not just power, but the ability to rewrite reality itself. To make truth into lies and lies into truth. There has to be something we can do, he said. Like what? Elena's voice was hollow. He's already won. My father always wins. No. Ryan grabbed her shoulders, made her look at him. He hasn't won, not yet. There's still one thing we haven't tried. What? Ryan turned to Cho. You said you had sources, people inside Vaughn's company who know what he's really like. Yeah, but they won't talk. They're too afraid. What if we gave them a reason not to be afraid? What if we showed them that standing up to Vaughn is possible? Cho caught on. You want to find a whistleblower? I want to find everyone. Every person Vaughn has threatened or intimidated or destroyed. Every employee who's seen him operate. If we can get even a few of them on record, we can show that Elena's not alone. That this is a pattern. That's going to take time, days, maybe weeks. Then we start now. Elena wiped her eyes. You really think this can work? I think we're not done fighting yet. Not even close. Marcus clapped Ryan on the shoulder. That's the spirit. So where do we start? Cho pulled up a list on his computer. I've got 17 names. People who used to work for Vaughn. People he's sued. People who might talk if they knew they weren't alone. We split the list. Start making calls. They worked through the night, calling people, explaining the situation, asking them to go on record. Most said no immediately. A few listened before saying no. But 3 people said yes. A former executive who'd been fired after disagreeing with Vaughn in a board meeting. A journalist who'd been sued into silence after writing a critical piece. And a woman named Sarah Chen, who'd been Elena's nanny when she was young, who'd seen firsthand how Vaughn controlled his daughter. It wasn't much, but it was a start. By dawn, they had 3 interviews scheduled. Cho would run them as a follow-up piece, building the case that Vaughn's pattern of control extended far beyond Elena. Ryan's phone rang. Mrs. Chen. His heart stopped. Hello? Ryan, where are you? I've been trying to reach you for hours. There are people here. They're asking about you and Mia. What people? They say they're from Child Protective Services. They have questions about your fitness as a parent. Ryan closed his eyes. Of course Vaughn would go after Mia. Don't let them in. Don't tell them anything. I'm coming home. Ryan, what's going on? I'll explain everything. Just keep Mia safe, please. He hung up and looked at Elena. I have to go back. I know. Come with me. She blinked. What? Come with me, back to the city. We face this together, like we have been. Ryan, if I go back, my father will... Your father already knows where you are, where we are. The story's out. There's no point in hiding anymore. Ryan took her hand. So we stop running. We go back, we fight this thing head on, and we don't stop until your father has nothing left to throw at us. Elena looked at him, really looked at him, and Ryan saw the moment she made her decision. Okay, she said. Let's go home. The city looked different when they arrived, or maybe Ryan was different. Either way, stepping out of the cab onto his street felt like returning to a place he'd left years ago instead of days. The building was the same, crumbling brick, broken mailboxes, the perpetual smell of garbage from the alley. But something had shifted. Elena paid the driver with cash while Ryan stood on the sidewalk, staring up at his 4th-floor window. Marcus had stayed in D.C. to help Cho track down more witnesses, promising to follow once they'd locked down the follow-up story. It was just the 2 of them now. You ready? Elena asked. No, but let's do it anyway. They climbed the stairs to Mrs. Chen's apartment. Ryan knocked, 3 quick raps that he hoped sounded more confident than he felt. The door opened immediately, like she'd been waiting right behind it. Ryan, thank goodness, Mrs. Chen pulled him inside, then saw Elena and hesitated. And you must be the girlfriend. Sort of, Elena said. It's complicated. Everything with Ryan is complicated. Mrs. Chen closed the door and locked it. The people from Child Services left an hour ago. They asked a lot of questions about your work schedule, your living situation, whether Mia is being properly cared for. I told them you're a wonderful father and they should mind their own business. What did they say? That they'd be back. That there had been concerns raised about your fitness as a parent. Mrs. Chen's expression hardened. This is about that story, isn't it? About her father. Yes. I watched the interview. Both of you were very brave. She looked at Elena. Your father is a monster. I know. Good. As long as we're clear on that. Mrs. Chen turned back to Ryan. Mia is sleeping. She doesn't know anything about the child services visit. I told her you were still at your job interview. Thank you for everything. Don't thank me yet. Those people will be back, and when they come, they'll have more than questions. You need a lawyer, Ryan. A good one. I can't afford a lawyer. Then you find one anyway, because if you don't, they're going to take Mia, and there won't be anything I can do to stop them. Ryan felt Elena's hand slip into his, squeezing gently. He squeezed back. Can I see her? He asked. Mrs. Chen nodded and led him to the small bedroom where Mia was curled up under a pink blanket, the stuffed elephant clutched to her chest. She looked so small, so fragile. Ryan knelt beside the bed and just watched her breathe for a minute, letting the reality of it wash over him. He'd missed her, 3 days away, and he'd missed her so much it physically hurt. Mia's eyes opened, groggy and confused. Then she saw him, and her whole face lit up. Daddy! She launched herself at him, and Ryan caught her, buried his face in her hair, and had to fight very hard not to cry. Hey, Bug, I missed you. I missed you too. Did you get the job? Not yet. Still working on it. Mia pulled back, studied his face with the kind of serious expression only 6-year-olds could pull off. You look tired. I am tired, but I'm okay. Mrs. Chen said you met someone special. Ryan glanced at Elena, who was standing in the doorway with a soft smile on her face. Yeah, I did. You want to meet her? Mia nodded, suddenly shy. Elena came into the room and knelt down so she was at Mia's level. Hi, Mia. I'm Elena. Are you my dad's girlfriend? I'm your dad's friend, a very good friend. Do you like dinosaurs? Elena laughed. I don't know much about dinosaurs, but I'd love to learn. I can teach you. I know everything about them. I'd like that. The next morning, Daniel Cho called with news that changed everything. 3 more witnesses had come forward overnight, all former Vaughn employees willing to testify about the pattern of intimidation and control. One of them had documentation, internal memos showing how Vaughn had systematically silenced anyone who disagreed with him. This is bigger than we thought, Cho said over the phone. The SEC is opening a formal investigation, and the media firestorm is only getting started. Vaughn's trying to contain it, but it's too late. Ryan watched Elena's face as she listened on speaker. She looked scared and hopeful at the same time. What does this mean for us? Ryan asked. It means you've got leverage, real leverage. Vaughn can't make you disappear now. Too many eyes on this story. But he's also going to fight back harder than ever. You need to be ready. The fight came 2 days later. Not from lawyers or hired muscle, but from Vaughn himself. Ryan answered his phone to hear that same smooth, educated voice, but this time something in it had cracked. You think you've won, Vaughn said. You think exposing me to the media changes anything, but it doesn't. I still have resources you can't imagine. I can still destroy you. Then why haven't you? The question seemed to throw him. There was a long pause. Because my daughter asked me not to. Ryan's heart stopped. What? Elena called me this morning. First time we've spoken in 6 months. She told me if I came after you or your child again, she'd testify against me in the SEC investigation. She'd tell them everything, every shady deal, every bribed official, every law I've bent or broken. Vaughn's voice was tight with rage. My own daughter, threatening to put me in prison. Good for her. You did this. You turned her against me. No, you did that yourself. I just gave her a safe place to realize it. Another long pause. When Vaughn spoke again, his voice was different, smaller. I loved her, in my own way. I wanted to give her everything. You wanted to control her. That's not love. And you think you know better? You, with your warehouse job and your rundown apartment? You think you can give her a better life than I could? Ryan thought about Elena teaching Mia about dinosaurs, about the way she laughed at his bad jokes, about how she'd looked at him when she said she didn't want to be careful anymore. Yeah, he said. I do. Vaughn hung up without another word. The SEC investigation took 4 months. During that time, Elena testified for 6 hours, laying out everything she knew about her father's business practices. The evidence was damning, fraud, bribery, intimidation, violations that went back decades. The board of Vaughn Industries forced Richard Vaughn out. His business empire collapsed. Criminal charges were filed. But the real victory came on a Tuesday afternoon when Elena's phone rang with a call from her father's attorney. He's agreed to the terms, the lawyer said. Full emancipation. He relinquishes all parental rights and control. In exchange, you don't testify in the criminal trial. Elena looked at Ryan. He nodded. I accept, she said. When she hung up, she stood in the middle of Ryan's apartment, their apartment now, she'd moved in 2 weeks ago, and started crying. Not sad tears, relief tears, freedom tears. Ryan held her while she shook, and when she finally pulled back, she was smiling. It's really over, she said. It's really over. 6 months later, Ryan stood in a small courthouse watching Elena officially change her name. Not to something completely new. She wasn't trying to erase who she'd been. She kept Elena. But Vaughn became Cole. Elena Cole. When the judge made it official, Mia cheered from the gallery. Mrs. Chen dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Marcus, who'd driven down from his cabin just for this, grinned like a proud older brother. They celebrated at the same diner where Ryan and Elena had first met with Cho. The reporter showed up with a camera crew, wanting to do a follow-up piece on where they were now. So what's next for you two? Cho asked, camera rolling. Ryan and Elena looked at each other. They talked about this late at night when Mia was asleep and the world was quiet. We're getting married, Elena said. Nothing big, just family and friends, and then we're going to keep building the life we started. Any message for people who might be in situations like you were? Cho asked. Elena thought about it. Yeah, don't wait for permission to save yourself. Don't wait for someone to rescue you. Find your courage and use it. And if someone offers to help, let them. You don't have to do it alone. She looked at Ryan. I almost didn't let him help me. I kept trying to protect him, to push him away because I was scared of putting him in danger. But the truth is, we saved each other. That's how it works. We're stronger together. The wedding happened 3 months later in Mrs. Chen's apartment building's courtyard. Sister Margaret from the church where they'd hidden performed the ceremony. It was small, maybe 20 people, and Elena wore a simple dress she'd bought on sale. Ryan wore a suit that Marcus had helped him pick out, the first one he'd owned since his mother's funeral. Mia was the flower girl and took the job so seriously that she practiced her walk for a week beforehand. When Ryan said, I do, he meant it in a way he hadn't been sure he could mean anything anymore. This wasn't just a promise to Elena. It was a promise to himself to keep being the kind of person who helped, who stayed, who chose connection over safety. They didn't have a honeymoon, couldn't afford one, but they took Mia to the park the next day, the three of them together, and it felt like enough, more than enough. 2 years later, Ryan finished his degree in social work. Elena had been working at the literacy nonprofit teaching adults to read and had discovered she was good at it, really good at it. They'd promoted her to program director. They still lived in the same apartment, though they'd repainted and fixed the leak in the bathroom. Mrs. Chen watched Mia after school. Marcus visited every other month, always bringing vegetables from his garden that were slightly misshapen, but tasted better than anything from the store. One evening, after Mia was asleep, Elena showed Ryan something on her laptop, an email from a woman in California who'd seen the interview, who'd been trapped in a controlling relationship with a wealthy family, who'd finally found the courage to leave. She said our story gave her hope, Elena said quietly. She wanted to say thank you. Ryan read the email and felt that same thing in his chest he'd felt on the subway all those years ago. That sense of rightness, of purpose. We should write back, he said. Already did. Sent her Andrea Liu's contact information and some resources. Elena closed the laptop. There are so many people out there, Ryan. People trapped like I was. What if we could help them? What do you mean? I mean, what if we started something? A foundation or a nonprofit, helping people escape controlling situations, connecting them with lawyers, safe houses, job training, everything I needed but didn't know where to find. Ryan thought about it, about all the people who'd helped them, Mrs. Chen, Marcus, Andrea Liu, Daniel Cho, about how none of them had to help, but they'd chosen to anyway. Yeah, he said, let's do it. They started small, called it the Elena Cole Foundation, despite her protests that it should be named after both of them. Used the money from Ryan's settlement with Vaughn. The lawsuit had been dismissed, but Lou had gotten them compensation for legal fees and damages. The first year, they helped 6 people. The second year, 23. By the 5th year, they had a full-time staff and had helped over 200 people escape situations like Elena's. Ryan would never forget the first person they helped face-to-face. A young man named David, whose family had been controlling every aspect of his life, who'd found their website and called in desperation. Ryan met him at a coffee shop, heard his story, and saw himself in this kid's eyes. That same fear, that same desperate hope that maybe, possibly, someone would help. "We're going to get you out," Ryan said. "It won't be easy, but we're going to do it together." And they did. That was the thing Ryan had learned through all of this. That courage wasn't a solo act. It was choosing to trust other people, to accept help, to build something bigger than yourself. On Mia's 10th birthday, she asked Ryan to tell her the story of how he and Elena met. "You've heard it 1,000,000 times," Ryan said. "I know, but I want to hear it again." So Ryan told her about the subway, the fight, the choice he'd made to step in when he could have looked away. He told her about the danger and the fear and how scared he'd been that they'd lose everything. "But we didn't," Mia said when he finished. "No, we didn't. Because you were brave. I was scared, but I did it anyway." "That's what brave means, Dad." Mia said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Being scared but doing the right thing anyway. Ryan looked at his daughter, this smart, fierce, kind kid who'd grown up watching her father and stepmother build something from nothing and felt pride so intense it almost hurt. "Yeah, Bug, I guess it is." Elena came in from the kitchen carrying a birthday cake, candles lit, and they sang off-key while Mia made a wish and blew them out. Later that night, after the party was over and Mia was asleep, Ryan and Elena sat on their small balcony looking out at the city lights. "You ever think about that night on the subway?" Elena asked. "Every day." "Do you regret it?" Ryan thought about everything they'd been through. The fear, the loss, the moments when it had seemed like they'd lose everything. He thought about the price they'd paid and the life they'd built. "Not for a second," he said. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. "Me neither." They sat there in comfortable silence, 2 people who'd found each other in the chaos and chosen to build something real. The city hummed around them, full of other stories, other people making choices that would change their lives. And somewhere out there, Ryan knew, someone else was facing their own subway moment. That split second where they had to decide, help or walk away, stay or run, courage or safety. He hoped they'd choose courage, because that was the thing about doing the right thing. It had a ripple effect. One choice led to another. One act of courage inspired the next. Elena's freedom had helped David find his. David's story had helped someone else. And on it went. The world didn't change because of grand gestures or perfect heroes. It changed because ordinary people made small, brave choices. Because someone decided that helping a stranger mattered more than their own comfort. Because someone refused to look away. Ryan pulled Elena closer and thought about all the people they'd helped, all the lives they'd touched. It started with one decision on a subway platform, and it grew into something bigger than he ever could have imagined. Not perfect, not easy, but real and worth every difficult step. And that, in the end, was everything.